Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attacker Productions. Today I'm Bancroft, being joined by Fluff. And I know when Fluff does his profiles, it's behind the camera. But for time convenience, we're just going to record it this way. It's most familiar to most of y'all anyways from our locals. There's buttons down below. Feel free to click them. They're there for a reason. But Fluff has, or is more likely determined, that Mecha Frieza did not need U9 as symbol. And they should have, like everyone else believes, put a tag U9 leader. But whatever. We don't have it anymore, so Fluff decided to make Mecha Frieza. That's what the match you saw yesterday with. So guys, here it goes. Fluff.
So after they found me at Guitar Center, which I disappeared in to just play the first 12 measures of Nothing Else Matters by Metallica for 4 days straight over the morning of U9 Assemble, I came to the decision that Mecha Frieza is still crazy. Hitting U9 Assemble was absolutely dumb. The leader is what makes this deck good. U9 Assemble was a casualty of war. So on the front side, you get to activate 1 extra card per turn. When you activate a mono yellow extra card, you can take a life to reduce the cost by 1. When you attack, draw 4 or less life. Flip an energy, draw a card, yada yada. On the back side, Mecha Frieza, when you activate a mono yellow with an energy cost 2 or less, take a life, it becomes free. If you're activating that effect because you can, then you're stupid and you're probably going to die. This deck is not nearly as fragile as it could be, but otherwise, when you activate a mono yellow extra card, you get to tap one of your opponent's battle cards and you draw when you attack. Looking at the extra card lineup, we've got 4. Power of a Super Saiyan here. Best extra card in the deck, I believe. 95% of the time it's going to be a free tap 2, draw 1. Otherwise it's just a negate. We do use this sometimes. You never really want to tap out with this deck. If you tap out, you're dead. So this is live all the time. Actually, I'll just leave those there. Then I do run 3 Flying Nimbus. This is just for the aggro matchup. You can take the life to proc one of these if you need to in a pinch, but usually we just want to pay the energy for it. And then I do run 3 Vegeta's Final Flash. I see a lot of decks are running this at a 4 of. I feel like this gets really clunky sometimes, though it is incredible at dealing with certain cards as the game progresses. Like against the blue-yellow match, getting your opponent to tap out and then activate this in response to Bojack is a great way to corner them, to beat them out. So this is perfect at a 3 of. We run 1 Cold Bloodlust because we are running Frieza, and this is the best negate in the game. And then we run 2 Kefla's Fury to replace the U9 Assemble being gone. I see a lot of people testing this at a 4 of, and I'm just here to tell you 4 is too many. They have a narrow window of activation, plus if you tap out to play this card, it feels really bad, unless it's very, very early turn against a non-aggro deck. I've actually lost games by playing this, so don't play this if it's going to tap you out. Don't strike a life to play this. Play it when it's convenient. Play it when it's right. Play it when it's not an inconvenience to you. You restand a lot of your energy. So if you have 4 open energy and you pay 2 to play a Kefla's Fury, that's perfectly fine. 2 has been right. I usually activate both over the course of a game and don't miss not having the other 2. Then I run 3 Sensu Beans. Could be 4. Thing is, we're not using Sensu Beans for aggression. We're using them for defense most of the time. So you don't want to have a ton. And I find that Sensu Beans honestly can clog. Like, it can be a dead draw if you're trying to find something to close out the game or otherwise. So I just run it at 3. I really like the card at 3. And I've actually thought about testing it without Sensu Bean, period. Now, kind of moving on to our Unison package, I run 2 of the Vegeta Unison and Fury. This is for the Dark Brawly matchup, Red Brawly matchup. Basically, any match that is going to be playing battle cards higher than their current energy. Mecha Cabora is a good example of this. Basically, if you can stop one of those decks from rolling you for a turn or 2 with the Vegeta, it's done its job and puts you on equal footing with them. So 2 of those, and it can also be a clutch game ender if you need it to be. I just run 2 because Unisons do get clunky. Then I run 2 of the Trunks Savior of the Future. Altering the Future. This is for controlling the field and KOing problem cards. So if your opponent goes wide against you, you can use Trunks to blow the field out, get you a draw. Otherwise, it's a dual attack pressure that's 20,000. This is honestly really good in the blue match. It doesn't sound like it would be, but this card is fantastic in the blue match. So we run 2 of those. And then the last unison we run is 1 Mecha Cabora. This is just if there's ever anything that we need to take or we need that extra defense. I have played the Mecha Cabora just paying 4, putting him out, and letting him be a blocker. So Good card, you don't need it all the time, can charge it most of the time. Super combo that we run, best super combo in the game. As I've said before many times, is Moss Sacred Disbelief. This card should have been hit on the ban list. Basically, with this, Power of a Super Saiyan, Bardock Apes, Bergamo at 1, you're basically tapping all of your opponent's pressure cards down before they can really get moving on. The only problem is if you're up against Barrier, it can be kind of tricky. But you usually have enough defenses that Barrier doesn't matter. Then we play 2 of the Trio to Danger's Fierce Trinity. This is our Unison Killer. So for 2 energy, we can put this guy out. It's a double striker that the opponent can't react to that basically turns off Unisons. This card almost single-handedly wins the match against blue for us. It's also really good against certain red decks, certain green decks. So we are running that at a 2 of. And then the King himself, Violent Rush Bojack. This card is absolutely bonkers in this deck. Pretty much if you can board this, a Poutine, and one of the other cards that we're playing, you pretty much have control of the entire field for the duration of the game. The Bojack enables you to tap out and then restand 2 energy to maintain your defenses. The only time you wouldn't do that is against yellow, because if your opponent Violent Rays or Vegeta Final Flashes your Bojack and you're tapped out, you're pretty much guaranteed to lose. So 4 of those, this plus the 2 trios, are usually enough to resolve Aegis for the duration of the game. You don't need to run 12 yellow-blue cards. It's more than enough at that. Then we run 3 Basil, because this card is still snapped. At a 1 of, it's a draw cantrip. When your opponent has 5 or more in rest mode, you get to, it gains 15,000, so it becomes a 19,000 dual attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. This card's great in the late game. It's really good in the early game. This card is never bad, and you never hate seeing it. So 3 of those. Because we do play in a best of 1 format, I do run 2 Chi-Chi Melee Matriarch. Blue is probably one of the hardest matchups for Mecha Frieza in my experience. Red is pretty easy. Green is so-so-ish, depends on the matchup itself. But blue can be pretty difficult because it's hard for Mecha Frieza to play through all the counters and all the negates. So this just kind of limits what they're able to do, and it shortens the life of the game overall. So 2 of these in matchups that are not blue, they're 1-trip, or they're 1-drop cantrips that we can combo off for no consequence whatsoever. Another control piece, we've got the Son Goku Absolute Annihilation. This card is busted, so it's Deflect, Barrier, Unique, but if your opponent were to activate an extra card, they have to tap an additional energy to activate that extra card. So if they're activating Dimension Magic, even if they're sparking, they have to tap 1 energy, so if they're tapped out, they can't spark the Dimension Magic. If they're trying to activate Sensu Bean, they have to tap 2 to activate Sensu Bean, so they don't get a net energy increase with this. And if you're playing against something like green or red that is planning on paying 1 for Violent Ray and they leave 1 up, they have to tap 2 for Violent Ray, so they're not able to do it. It just slows the game down and forces your opponent to not perform as many actions on their turn to maintain the defense they desired. So 2 of those, because they are blocky, you do have to pay 3 energy for them, but we usually will play them. Then I play 2 of the Mecha Frieza Robotic Riposts. I would probably play 2 of these or more than this, but we only have the 2 of, and I'm actually borrowing one from Nick, so shout out to Nick for letting me borrow one. But consider it topo that taps cards. Fantastic. Then we play 3 of the Bardock Apes. These are bad in certain matchups, and they get worse as the game goes along, but it can create early game pressure. It can force your opponent to react to it. Your opponent will basically just react to these cards every time they see them. I don't know why it's ingrained in people. Kill this card as soon as you see it, but you can pretty much bet that your opponent's going to waste something on this. And because of Bojack, it's not a ton of investment for us to just play the Bojack out. Because we do tap a lot, we do run 2 Poutine, the Dark Sorcerers. Would play this more, but it is unique, so we don't need to play it. It's kind of sticky. Once it's on the field, your opponent can't deal with it. And Poutine is another one of those cards that it practically wins certain matchups for you. If your opponent can't play a card without getting it tapped, or, if they use enough energy that their card's going to get tapped, that they don't have enough to have a backup play, Poutine just wins those matches. Because the opponent either won't do stuff, or they will make their play, and then it's disrupted, and then they'll pass the turn. So 2 of Poutine. kind of our one-of package here. We've got Vegeta striving to be the best. This is just a tech for decks that like barrier cards. Specifically, Bancroft's been on the yellow Trunks deck. So if we can force him to activate his blocker twice and then play this, it'll kill the big 8-drop Trunks. Or any other card that is rest mode barrier. So Mecha Kabura can be a problem, or Murichim can be a problem for this deck. So this deals with that card as well. One Cooler for the negate. One Bergamo because it's limited. I feel like this card's really good at a one-of. It still feels powerful. Sucks it got limited, but I understand. Then kind of spicy stuff. We run Android 17, 18. If there's a skillless on the field on either side, we decrease the energy cost of this by 1. But it's a triple strike that chooses all of the opponent's battle cards in the battle in unison, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, all battle and unison cards and negates their skills until the end of your opponent's next turn. So if they have blockers on the field, you play this, it turns all the blockers off. If they have other effects that are causing problems for you, this just turns everything off. Then we run one Frieza Divine Transformation. This card does a ton for 5 energy. So it is expensive, but this card is fantastic. So deflect, double strike, barrier. When you play this card, you KO all of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, and then if your opponent were to activate a counter, you choose 2 of your opponent's rest moded battle and or energy cards and just KO them. Keep them in rest mode. They can't activate embers. They can't restand that stuff. So this card is really sticky. It's got barrier. No, I'm sorry, it's not barrier, it's blocker. So he will restand at the end of the turn that you play him. Sorry about that.
He's a permanent where he can't be removed.
Permanent, he can't be removed. That's what I was thinking of. So this card it's incredibly hard for your opponent to get rid of this unless you're playing against red and they neg it out. Then we play one Champa because Champa. One Bardock fighting against Fate. One of the problems with this deck is closing the game out, so having a dual attack that might have a Champa on it, or maybe your opponent thinks you're done and you strike one of these downs and kill them. And then the secret for everyone is send Shenron. Jake got me turned onto this. You combo with it, pay 1, play him. Rests your opponent's leader, unison, and battle cards. So if your opponent's got a big turn coming up and you just tap everything, it basically stalls them out. And then in your turn, you can pay 4. He gains dual attack, double strike, and he's a 40,000. So a huge pressure play, but otherwise he's just a big body blocker that you can use to defend yourself with. Very rarely do we activate the activate main, but the tap, if we play this and then follow it up with a Trunks unison, we basically stop our opponent's entire play. So that is my Mecha Frieza deck. It's fantastic. I went first at locals this weekend with the deck. I don't think this deck is any weaker for losing Universe 9. Universe 9 is the set 14 ban list loser, I think, because it kills so many decks that aren't Mecha Frieza, right? You can't play Topo Lock anymore. Universe 9 has to play in a very specific way now because they don't have it. And Frieza is honestly the limiter there. The card was only viable in the Frieza deck. So I think it sucks the card got limited or banned. It's my favorite card in the game. I've been playing with it since Topo Lock came out. So kind of sucks, but Mecha Frieza is still really strong. Hopefully Bandai will see it. I feel like this is the next Vegex, where we're just going to see senseless bans, senseless limits, senseless erratas, until they finally decide that this leader is just too much.
Well, with that being said, thank you opportunity game. Keep in mind, there's buttons on the screen and down below. If you didn't click them already, go ahead and click them. And yeah.
I guess, as always, breach cards, know your plays. Let us make the mistakes so that you don't have to. Bandai, I hope you learned your fucking mistake. Universe 9 Assemble didn't deserve to be done dirty like that. And as always, Fluf out.